Hello YouTube, RJ. Want to talk about a new project I'm starting. This one has a sentimental value to me. This is an old Silvertone Sears and Roebuck radio. As you can see, it's dirty. You can see it's got quite the crack through the plastic casing. Turns out this model all did this. There's other cracks. You can see hairline cracks through here. There's a bunch of cracks. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to pull off restoring this, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to restore this radio. And one of the reasons it's important to restore this one for me is this radio belonged to my grandmother. And this is the 30th anniversary of her passing away. And for that reason, I've decided that I've pulled it down from storage and I've decided that I want to try to restore it. Now, it's got a lot of cracks. I'm going to have my hands full. I'm more worried about the restoration of the plastic casing and such than I am anything else. The electronics, I'm sure I can get to work. I assume this is just like an All-American 5 or All-American 6 radio. But we're at the very beginning. You can see, maybe you can make out here, Sears and Roebuck and Company USA. This radio dates back to 1958, I believe it was. So it's, you know, the reason it's important to me is because it was my grandmother's, and when I was young, I used to sit in her kitchen with her and listen to gospel radio on this radio while she made breakfast and while we made cookies and we did such. So a lot of memories tied up in this radio. It's really the only thing I have left to remember her by, and so I'd like to try to put it back into working and decent shape. So I've taken this on to see what I can do, and so hopefully you'll come along for the ride with me and we'll see what we're able to do. You can see it had gold colored inlays on the knobs, and this was all gold originally, with gold highlights up here. And it is so dirty, but in the previous videos that I've had up, this is part of the reason that I was getting a variac and an isolated transformer and building a dim bulb tester, is because I wanted to restore this. And I also have another big project that's going to be coming up that's for a family member of mine. That's vintage equipment that is something I needed that equipment before I wanted to even touch. This is just the intro. I'm going to get into it, and as I move along, I'll come back. I'll show you what we're doing and what I'm trying to accomplish, and we'll see how I make out on this project. Okay, we're back, and you can see I've opened it up, and this is what we've got. Really dirty in there. Of course, you got your interlock. I did find a schematic for this. I think this All-American 6 was considered. One thing I did notice while I was looking at it, this is one of the AA6. It's one of the ones that could be dangerous. Not that they can't all be dangerous. They all have voltages in here will get you, but what I did find is if you look at the schematic, and I'll grab that in just a second, and actually I'll pop it up on the screen here for you and let you see it. If you look at the schematic here, the way the powers come in, remember these were unpolarized plugs. You can plug it in either way, and which means you literally could make the chassis hot. And the interesting thing about that was the way the switch is hooked up, it's on the wrong leg. It's on the neutral leg to the chassis. So if you turn the switch off and this thing's plugged in correctly, or you basically have your power running through to the chassis with nowhere to return. So you have voltage there that can get you. And if you have the switch closed and you put the plug in backwards, you've got direct hot on the chassis. So these things weren't really set up the safest in the world. There's no, as you can imagine, these had no transformers. They were AC/DC radios, no transformers. So what happens? You have no galvanic isolation, and that's why the isolated transformer is extremely important when working on stuff like this. That isolation transformer that a recent video went up that I showed that is a key component of being safe working on this stuff, because it does isolate you. It adds a transformer in line to isolate you. So this thing is nasty. You can probably see how nasty it is, but it's a pretty simple radio. Nothing complicated in there. I'm very hopeful I can get this thing working. First thing I'm going to do is desolder these wires for the antenna, and then go ahead and work on getting the chassis out, which will mean taking the knobs off, which I hope that they hold together. They're that brittle plastic, the same as the rest of this. It's got tons of cracks everywhere. Get the chassis out, get the speaker system out, and my hope is to be able to clean everything up and start trying to get this case cracks dealt with. And at the same time, we'll take a look at what I need to recap this, get it clean, recap it, and move on from there. So this is where we're at, and we're moving ahead. Okay, with a little effort, I was able to get the unit out of the case. It's pretty disgusting, as you can see. It's one of the early printed circuit board. So a lot of cleaning's got to go on in there, along with a lot of other work. But schematic and information on the bottom here. I'm thinking I'm going to get a picture of that and see if there's a way I could recreate that, because it's in rough shape, and I don't think there's any way that that's going to survive cleaning and working on this case. You know, if not, oh well, it just won't be on there. I mean, it's so brittle, I don't see how I'm going to do anything to save it. But got so many cracks to fix in this case, it's unreal. I'm hoping I can actually get it to looking decent and be sturdy enough to survive being handled some. So here's where we are. We'll see where we get from here. One little bite at a time. Okay, well, we're back. I've done some cleaning up. You can see how much better the logo and this looks. It's all clean. It's not sticky anymore. But over on the other bench is the big deal. Okay, over here what we've done is we've got the case. I've got it cleaned up the best I can, and that massive crack all the way through that's about to completely split this case right here. What I've done is I've put some spools of wire, because I wanted some weight to hold this down. I put wax paper down, wax side up on my bench. Give me something flat that glue wouldn't stick to. I brought a clamp in from the garage. Let me close that gap up. And what I'm going to do is I've got some plast-aid that I purchased. See if I can get it where you can see it without the glare. It's a plastic fixing compound. It's a powder and a chemical you mix up, and it makes plastic, very strong plastic that glues plastic items together well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open this crack back up, and I'm going to put just a little bit in the crack, close it up, let it dry. Once it's good and dry, I'm going to leave the clamp on, keep the pressure off of it. We'll do the next thing. The next thing, I've got a new tool. We're going to try to beef that up and make sure that it holds together for us in the long run. And then I'll have to do the same thing on some of these other cracks. There's a crack up here, right here, that's going to have the same thing done. So we're going to see, this will be the first time I'm doing this and trying this. We'll see how it works out. Who knows? It might be a big mess. It might work out fine, but if I take the clamp pressure off, you can see I think you can see the crack opening and closing there probably. So that's the plan. So I'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll see how my gluing job's going. Okay, we're back. I've given it a little time to set up. We're not an hour, but probably 45 minutes. Seems hard as could be. Hopefully you can see this decent with the setup I've got here. Brought in everything I could do to light well. And I've got a new tool that if you watch my videos, you've probably seen. It's a plastic welder. It's got a little clip that you weld plastic back together with, and we're going to give this a try. So what you're supposed to do is put it where you want it. I'm wanting to get in close to the end here. I might try to do it from this side. Might actually move my weight out of the way. But what I might do is try it from this angle. So I'm going to go in while it's all still clamped together. I'm going to put this right across the crack like that and try to melt it in to add some additional strength. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to put it in and then twist a little as it's gone in and let go of the trigger. And supposedly, and I don't have a lot of room up here, so I'm having to be, well, my arm's right in the way when I do it that way. Let's try to do it this way where you can see. I'd like y'all to be able to see what I'm doing. I don't know that it's going to be easy to handle like this, but maybe we can. So I'm going to put it in and I'm going to twist just a little bit, and we're going to hopefully pull this off well. So here we go. Okay, went in good. Wait a minute for it to cool back down and pull it out. As you can see, that leaves a staple in there that's supposed to add support. And now we're supposed to just take our little nippers that came with the tool, cut that off. Pretty hard to, stuff's flying everywhere, but it's in there. Huh. I think that's going to work. I'm going to put a couple more through here to give strength, and then we're going to release the clamps, and we're going to see what we end up with. So I'll be back to show you if I've messed up or if this is working out all right. Okay, I'm done. I've got them all in. All I have to do is clip them, the rest of these off. I left them in so you could see easily. And so now the big reveal is we're going to release this and see if this thing holds. Get this clamp up and out of our way. Okay, so she definitely leaked through a little, which is good. Sand that. That's the whole purpose. I'll sand that. In fact, I can kind of scrape it a little and get some of it off right now before it's totally hard. That's good. That's nice. She's together. Now, how strong? I mean, it's pretty, looks like it's pretty flat together. Let me get her here where you can see. It's together. We got her, buddy. I should be able to sand that. Start working on fixing up these. So the little chip here. Need some work on some of these. I've got one over here to deal with. I really like that stapler, plastic stapler. I think it seems to work. So we'll get this glued. So I'll work on this, same techniques, and I'll be back later on. We'll see how we did and what it looks like, whether we're making good progress or not. I thought you might want to see a side project that was going on while I was working on all of this. I had taken the emblem off of the front grille and went ahead and painted the gold back, and now I needed to put the white lettering back in the silver tone logo. And this is under the microscope. You're watching me paint back the lettering. And what I'm using is, if you've seen one of the little pointed foam cotton swab, you know, a Q-tip, but it's foam and it's pointed. I'm using one of those to apply this paint into this slight inset. And what I've done is, if you notice how the paint's acting, I've actually thinned the paint slightly to make it a little bit runny. And this helps because the paint tends to want to run and not dry real quick and run in. So since I have the inset, it helps me get it in. So this is, and you'll see some spots that are missed, but I'll come back and take care of those. But once I'm done with this, what I can do is I can just take, and before the acrylic sets up good, I can actually take a flat sanding pad, sanding block is what I'm trying to say, a sanding block, which is very flat, and I can put a one of those eyeglass cleaner pads on it with a little bit of alcohol. And what I can do is literally lay it down on this logo, and because it'll sit on the top of the ridges of gold, it will literally remove any of the still wet acrylic that gets up on the edges where I get a little bit. So of course I'm trying to be as careful as I can here, but of course you can't be perfect. You will end up with a little here and there. You can see a few little drops here and there, but that'll come right off that hardened gold paint, and it'll look good. And you'll see the finished product at the end of it, of the build, or I should say of the restore. you'll see the final product at the end of the restore. So anyway, I thought you might want to see some of the little details going on in the background that makes for the finished restore of the radio. And you'll see how this really makes an enormous difference in the look and the quality of the restore. So hope you enjoyed this. Hope you'll come back to see the rest of this project. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next videos. So thanks for hanging in here with me. Hope you enjoyed, learned a little something, and leave a comment if you have something to add.